Hi there, I'm Michael Hill with Canine Chronicle TV, and today for our influencer series, I'm here with Kathy Musto. We're going to talk about who helped form her to be the dog person that she is today. How are you, Kathy?
I'm great, thank you.
Wonderful. So let's start at the very beginning. How did you first get involved in the sport of dogs?
Gosh, it's kind of my life story. To be honest, I started as a really young girl. I was about 5 years old when we got our first show dog.
Wow,
So this is really my
all you've
life.
known.
Yes, it actually started. So I grew up with my family going to dog shows, and it all started because we had a black lab that my parents bought from a pet store. Just like everybody else getting started, had no
Of
idea,
course.
but she was an amazing dog. We had her for 16 years. So she was a great girl.
Wow, so healthy.
Super healthy, although that's not exactly the best way to get her. She just sort of fell
Good
into our
fortune.
family, and she was well loved. So
Good.
that kind of started my journey with my parents wanted to find a dog from a breeder.
Okay.
So my dad wanted to get a Rottweiler, and we were doing a lot of research of getting with the right breeder. He kind of found his way to the breeder being in Ohio and just thought he was getting a good dog from a breeder. Well, it turns out it was a show quality dog. And they said, "Hey, would you consider showing it?" And he said, "Know nothing about it. Have no idea what you're talking about, but sure,
Yeah.
why not?" My dad was racing motorcycles at the time. And so my mom thought dog shows might be a little better spot
A
than
little safer.
motorcycles. So we had my sister and I, that was our family kind of going out to a dog show. And he tells me now that what he thought he was signing up for joining the club was signing up for the Rottweiler Club of America National. And that was his first dog show. So he kind of jumped all the way in. He thought he was going to a club meeting and ended up his first dog show.
No way.
So packs up the family. We're on this great adventure. We're all going to go to a dog show. My sister and I are super excited. We have this Rottweiler. His name was Baron. He happened to be a very nice boy. Now, knowing what I know, they got so lucky with their first show dog, but
Yeah.
that started the passion for our whole family because
Wow.
it turned into us just doing a family sport, going on the weekends, enjoying it. And I just
Amazing.
was all in, all in. I loved
Ah,
every bit of it. I love the dogs. I love the competition. I love just
yeah.
every part of doing it. And my sister and I just had a blast. We'd sit ringside, we'd watch. And the best part about it is just now, it was early, uh, kind of in my life, but it was just something that caught about dog shows for me, and meeting the people and enjoying the dog show at the end of the day. It's changed a lot over the years, but that was really something that stuck with me. My
The
family would
community.
sit with our other competitors. So we were all showing Rottweilers. That was back in the late 80s, early 90s of like 80 some Rottweilers out there. Now
Right.
it's like, oh, wow, 30, great entry. It's just such a difference. It really is. And there
Right.
would be 30 in the open dog class alone. So
Wow.
you could sit there and watch for hours. And I
Just
was
at a
just
regular show.
yeah. I mean, it just was something that I was stuck and I loved it. So I wanted my own dog and I started talking about it. And my parents have just absolutely been the base of why I'm here. I mean,
Mm,
they encouraged me to love the dogs, encouraged me to get into it. And they said, "Okay, you want a dog, study the breeds and find the right breed for you. But you have to know
oh, so let
everything
you
about it."
choose.
Yeah, I could choose.
Okay.
Now, I don't think they totally expected me to come up with what I came up with.
What'd you pick?
And Basenji.
Ooh.
Yes. So, tell a 5-year-old little girl she can't have a Basenji. And that's probably the best thing to say at that time. But I was like, no, I want a Basenji. And
Wow.
it happened because the breeder that my parents got our Rottweiler from, their daughter was in Basenjis. And they're
Okay.
still to this day my dog show family. I mean, we truly were family together. And we laugh about it now because there is a great video of my first dog show showing one of her Basenjis, because my parents were like, "Okay, if you're going to get one of these dogs, you need to know what you're in for. The Basenji is not for
Take it
everyone."
for a ride first.
And so
Test
I
drive.
fell in love with her dog named Ollie. And he, now looking back on it, was not one of the best quality dogs you've ever met, and certainly not the best temperament dog you ever met, but man, did he love me, and he would do anything for me. So
It's all
Tracy
you
gave me
needed.
this opportunity. Yeah. And she said, "Okay, well, if you work with him, That's all I had to hear. I was all in.
Wow.
I worked with them every night at the end of the dog show. They're probably like, we hate this girl. She's over here every night trying to work this Basenji. And I'm like, hey, at the end of the dog show, can I train Ollie? Can I work with them?
My time.
They were amazing. They just said, okay. And I got to work with him. I was too short to put him up on the table. So we had to teach him Ollie up, and I would tell him to jump up.
God.
And I was blessed to be able to have that opportunity, because I went in, and I'll never forget, because my dad looked at me and he said, okay, you want to show, you're probably going to lose. Me at the time, like, oh, I'm going to win. Like, I'm going to win. My dad, now that I look at the photos of the dog, I'm like, yeah, I'm probably going to lose. You know, I had so many great people out showing Basenjis at the time. There were some really amazing, beautiful dogs. And when you watch the video, Michael Work ended up beating me with his Basenji. Darn it. I don't know why I didn't beat him, but my dad told me, he said, if you go in and you come out crying, you can never show dogs again. You have to be able to go win or lose. And I was like, okay. And that stuck with me, because I lost and I came out the ring, but I was just smiling ear to ear, because I wanted him to see, like, I'm still happy. It's okay. And I just had the best first experience. And it just, my family is the reason I had that, though. I mean, they were like, go for it, encouraged me to train the dog and do it. And until I could really prove that I was all in on competing and showing with the dog, I couldn't get my own dog. I had to say, can you do it? I did ultimately get my Basenji, and she was the best dog to this day. She just was my heart. She lived to 16 and a half years old too. So we've had some really great
longevity. Something's in your water. Like.
Something we definitely do well. But she was great. And I was a young girl, and I got her in the top 10 myself. I showed her in juniors, and I got a CD on her. Okay. So determined is the best way to describe me as a little girl. I wasn't going to say
there's nothing holding you back.
No, because, you know, I worked so hard to finally get my own show dog, and I just loved it so much that I thought, if I don't prove that this is really what I want to do. The
stakes were high.
Yeah. And I wanted it.
You didn't take it for granted.
And she was great, because she was so dedicated to me, and we spent all those times together training. And, you know, if my parents didn't drag me to all these dog shows and let me go to all these different things, I swear they probably like, this girl's crazy. She wants to go to a dog show every weekend. And I just really wanted to go. And we were fortunate enough in Ohio, we had a lot of shows that were nearby, because, you know, my parents both worked full-time jobs, and my sister and I were
like a weekend warrior.
Yeah, we were like just jumping in Friday night in the van, loading up the dogs and going. And my sister ended up getting a Pembroke Welsh Corgi, so we had quite the little variety pack. We had the Rottweilers, the two Rotties.
All the groups.
Yep, we had it. We were all in. We wanted to do it, and it just was. I think that start in this sport was truly what kept me in the love of the game, because we did it as a family. We enjoyed it. We met people.
It's a wholesome foundation.
Yeah, it just was fun. And my passion only got stronger. I would sit ringside and just watch and just take it all in. And, you know, being in Ohio growing up, it was really a great experience, because we had so many really good professional handlers. And seeing that influence and being able to watch and just study and see what they did, it made me want that. I was just like,
who were some of the ones that were the most helpful to you?
So I had a great opportunity to work for Vicki Seiler, and she really helped me a lot. And I got to learn a big string of dogs. How do you manage a whole day? My mom and dad would take me to a lot of shows, and sometimes I would stay with her at the shows. I never lived full time. I never, you know, went off, but she was only an hour and a half away from me, so I could meet her at a lot of shows. And I did that for about a year and a half and got to really experience that. And then my dad was handling more dogs, and so I got to see that side of it too. And he always encouraged me to go work with Vicki, and he said, learn other things, see the world, and know what it is. But they also never let me forget that school was first. So I always had to make sure my grades were good and to be able to do it. And when I was at the shows, I wanted to help people. So I was out there, you know, trying to take it all in. And
whoever might
Yeah. And, Nina Fetter was doing a lot of dogs and I could go work with her camp a little bit and see that. And, the longest handler I worked for was Vicky, and certainly great experience because I always thought she was very professional, very glamorous. And I loved that.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so that was just,
But still had the big dogs.
it fit me. It really did. It just kind of was a great opportunity. And I worked with her a lot in kind of my teenage years. Then I went off to college. So I still was involved in dog shows. My dad would pick me up. I was convinced to live a normal life, so I went to live in the dorm the first year of college. And my dad would pick me up on Friday night with the van full of dogs, and off to the show we'd go. And I'd come back and jump back on board. And, they're all like getting ready to go out for the weekend. And I'm like, oh, I got a show. See you later next Sunday night.
What did you study in college?
I did an emphasis in marketing and advertising because that really fit the outlet of what I was looking to do, which was ultimately become a professional handler. But I needed to learn the business. I needed to know, how do I market? How do I advertise? What is it that I want to do for it? And I love that. Advertising was such a huge passion of what I was doing. And I just really.
It's so crucial to your profession too.
It is. And with going to school and trying to show dogs, it was a lot. I will say that trying to do that again.
But you knew at that point that you wanted this to be your career.
I did. I was all in. I just
no question about it.
Nope. No question about it. As much as my parents tried to talk me out of it. I mean, they were like, go to school, see what you think, maybe it'll be here. And I just thought, okay, but I always kept my foot in. Like I never left. I just stayed and I always showed and got to, work with some great dogs and get going a little bit because I'd aged out of juniors. And then I was kind of making my transition to where I thought I wanted to go. Again, I was in college. I graduated college. I went fast and then I got married. And that kind of is like my phase 2 of what I'll describe my influence of the dog show world is I got married and at 25 became a young widow. So that's life-changing. You don't realize until you're in that situation.
You never see that coming.
You're gonna do. No. I was broken and I didn't know what to do with my life. It was not expected. And at that age, at any age, I don't think you really are able to handle it, but at that age,
that's a young age.
It was a lot. It was a lot. And had I not had the opportunity to just breathe a little bit, I don't know where I'd be now. And fortunately, my parents said, all right, just take a minute. So for like a month and a half, I did nothing. I went to no dog shows. I just was like, I'm going to change my life completely. I'm not going to show dogs anymore. I want something totally different. And I just want to stop. I don't want anything that was my life. And my mom and dad were like, okay, do what you need to do. Try and figure this out. I think in the back of their heads, they're like, this girl spent her whole life trying to do dog shows. What is she doing? But
they can't say that to you in that moment.
Yeah, no, my gosh. And in that time, I was convinced I was done. I didn't want to do dog shows anymore. I just wanted something totally different. And my dad looked at me one day and he was kind of like, why don't you try going to a show? Let's just go. If you don't feel comfortable, and it's not right, we leave. We'll just go. It's like, okay, let's go. So I went to the show, and this is like probably the most important influence I can tell you is this dog show community. Literally, I'm going to cry. I'm sorry. This is terrible. This is a bad interview. You're going to be like, worst girl ever.
Don't stop. Keep going.
They picked me up and supported me and welcomed me back. And it just meant a lot. It really did. Because at that time, and I cry because I still feel that love. And what they did for me as a community, they all wanted to give me sympathy, but they knew I was on the edge of shattered. They didn't know what to do. They didn't know to come up and say. And just, they were like, welcome back. Great to see you. And just encouraged me to get in there and show dogs, encouraged me to say, hey, when are we going to see you again next? And it just reminded me that that was my outlet that I needed to pour myself into. And I think at that turning point of my life is when I just went all in. I was fortunate. My dad started our handling business. and Safari is the name of the business. And he just was like, let's go, let's make this
Yeah.
it. Do what you
No
want to
holding
do.
back.
Use your passion, use your education, just go. And I did. And honestly, life-saving, just absolutely life-saving. I can see where you can take a really dark path at that point in your life. Fortunately,
Yeah.
dogs saved me. It wasn't drugs or alcohol, dogs saved
Yeah.
me. And just, it's the dog show community as a whole really came together. And I know it's not necessarily one specific person to give you, because it's not. At that point in my life was just the dogs and the campaigning
The
and
whole
like getting
community.
it. Yeah. And just going for it and learning that I could be passionate. I could be happy. I could laugh. I could enjoy it. And that just, that brought me right back. And it brought me to wanting to do more. And that encouragement and support was just amazing to feel, because you can't just say something, you got to feel it. And at that point, it's really, my passion for showing dogs just went to the extreme, because it really was the outlet I needed and brought me back to where I had that love.
It changed the course of your life.
It did. It honestly did. And I, took the adventure of, I got more involved with my breed clubs, and I became a show chair for our all breed club, and just like learned the ins and outs of the business, just because I thought, okay, I want to know it all. I want to really kind of go. And then at that point, it'd been a couple of years of being back in and just going all in. And the best part of it is the dog show world brought me my husband, Dave Musto. And certainly he's my world. He is just everything to me. So it's, when I say it's my life story, it really is. It's just the dog show world has.
You can't separate it. You shouldn't try to separate it.
It's just, it was kind of funny because he called to hire me to show his dog. And at the time it was Connie Corso who was coming into AKC. And I was like, oh, what? I was like, I don't know. And so then I met him and I was like, well, Dave's really good looking. So sure, I'll show it.
Like suddenly I am available.
All of a sudden now I can show this dog. I don't know what it is, but I can show it. And that's certainly the mixed business with pleasure, but it was, we fell in love very quickly and had this amazing long distance relationship for a long time, because he lived in South Carolina and I was in Ohio. And we'd meet at dog shows. I was like, okay, what's a good meeting point where we can meet up? And I was really heavy into campaigning dogs by this point. So, I was somewhere every week, and he was new into showing dogs and getting the excitement of coming to the shows. And I was like, well, he's smart because he's hiring me and he's good looking. He checks.
His dogs are nice. Like, okay, we can work with this. There's something here.
It just, and now at this point in our life, like we just get to share this together, and we go to shows together, we get to handle together, and just, I don't let it pass me to be grateful for where I am at this point, because of all these little things that have kind of built to this one big, major, crazy life that I've been on. But, when you asked me about this interview, I kind of took a second. I thought, I was like, gosh, can I just say like one thing? And honestly, no, I can't. But when you reflect on this and this journey I've been on, it's like, you just realize the dog show constantly has been my go-to. And
I was going to say, you see that thread from literally 5 years old, just through every up and down, like it's that constant that you're tied to.
It has. And it's just, my whole family's still involved. My parents still go to dog shows. My sister married somebody I showed a Basenji for. So now she and her husband and my nephew go to
handling / matchmaking services.
I'm going to be a side business. If you want to make somebody dog shows, I got you.
Get her card.
It is a crazy little journey, but
certainly. But the thing that's so beautiful about it is the authenticity of it's rooted in your original passion for dogs that your parents had, that you had, and that's what's grounded you and shaped you, and also helped you grow and find these ways to find joy through it too. I think that's just beautiful.
It certainly is, and it just not. When you sit and think of what your story is going to be of your life, this is never the version I thought it would be. But just the community of dog shows is just, it's like a lot of different groups you get involved in, but our passion and love for dogs, I think ultimately make us passionate, loving people. And that feeling is just amazing to be able to have that. And I only hope that I can give that to people coming up and mentoring. And, you know, when I think about how much I've been influenced by the dog show community and what it's brought me to, and just the little things I've learned about even breeding programs, and, you know, what does it mean to be a passionate, hardworking breeder? You know, okay, you can breed dogs, but what are you trying to accomplish? What are you trying to do? And that is kind of an awesome expansion of understanding dog shows. And like I said, getting involved with my All Breed Club. And I highly recommend every young person getting involved in the designing and operating of a dog show and really knowing, because I don't know that you can always totally appreciate it until you've been behind the scenes and been exhausted by your day of trying to put together a dog show. And it's a whole
and how
year
much that goes into that.
Yeah. And it's just not something that pops up, but it's just, there's a lot of things that you don't realize maybe influence your journey in dog shows, but it's important to appreciate each one of those and how the influence has been different. And to me, I think that's the most exciting thing when I talk about where I am in my spot of life. And just, I'm excited about what I get to do next. I'm excited about what I want to do. I get excited about meeting a new dog to show. And that is a lot, being in this business as long as I have been. Now, I'm not saying there's not times you're exhausted and tired and trying to figure out if you want to go to the next dog show, but you know, the drive there. We joke around that my husband's my hardest client that I'll ever show for. If it's his dog, you better be there.
He's checking ring times.
That's it. It's like, you will be at that dog show. Like, oh yeah, that's right. I forgot you're the client now. I got to get there. So
a difficult one.
Yes, he's my worst one. So, you know, if anybody has a card, I'd like to hire somebody.
The client is available. Wow. Well, Kathy, thank you so much for sharing that. That was just a powerful, beautiful story. And I just think it's also just, again, so authentic, and the passion is so clear. And I think that's just something that's so important to showcase, you know, when we're talking about this and we're talking about this sport, that it goes a lot farther than just wins and individual dogs. And it's about that feeling, like you said that perfectly. It's a feeling that really is what's carrying you literally your entire life.
It has. It's truly, I can only be grateful to everybody.
That's beautiful. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Kathy. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate the journey.